It's Monday night, and you know what that means. Jersey First TV proudly brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk. And I am New Jersey's premier and now 7-time award-winning journalist, top 100 Latino via the Latino Spirit online magazine, and certainly the Garden State's most visually appealing conservative. Yes, it's me, Fernando Uribe, ladies and gentlemen. Hoping you're having a wonderful week. It is League of Municipalities week in Atlantic City. I look forward to seeing many of you later on tomorrow night and into Wednesday night for a lot of parties, open bars, networking events, and of course, for all of you who are fans of the show, come up and say hi. And for those of you that don't like the show, well, you know what? You know where to find me too. All right, so I'll leave it at that. And so I want to thank you all for tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so right here on Jersey First. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, make sure you check out all of our great social media feeds. Make sure you like Real Talk with Fernando Uribe on Facebook as well as my own page. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Twitter at the Fernando Zone. And certainly make sure you follow Jersey First TV on YouTube. And check out all of our episodes now on Spotify and on SoundCloud. They're easy to find. They're easy to download. And folks, you'll enjoy them wherever you listen to podcasts every single day. And of course, folks, I want to thank you all for tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so. This on the 14th of November. Certainly a very hectic and chaotic election week, to say the least. Nice to see Republicans win the House. I thought the Senate was a little bit of a jump ball, as they say. But it's okay, folks. You know, it's not all is lost. I was very, very happy to hear about all the important Board of Education races and parents that won during Election Day, and hopefully trying to make sure that school boards don't get out of control with all the woke nonsense that's permeating throughout the state of New Jersey. But of course, folks, check out all of our episodes when you can there on all of our social media. And folks, again, the reason this show continues to do exceptionally well is not just because of yours truly, obviously with the important guests that I interview. And of course, folks, make sure you stay tuned, because at the very end of tonight's broadcast, we will announce this week's winners of the worst journalist in the state of New Jersey. Once again, there are 3 of them, and I have a lot to say as we get close to Thanksgiving. Yeah, there's about 3 turkeys. I'm going to enjoy cooking later this evening. But first, folks, of course, we have a double main event for you this evening. Joining me live from Atlantic City, and folks, wouldn't you know it, a guy who is loved by everybody and in the know right now in New Jersey politics. I can't say enough, folks, about, quite frankly, how important he has become. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the distinguished mayor of the city of Belleville, folks. The Honorable Michael Melham joins us tonight on Real Talk. Mayor, how are you?
I'm doing well, Fernando. Thank you for having me.
All right, Mayor, it's great to have you on here. And certainly, folks, if you're not familiar with the city of Belleville, great place to live in Essex County, accessible by almost any major road when you think about it, whether it's Route 21, Route 3, the Parkway, near the Turnpike, folks. It's an up-and-coming city in Essex County, and their distinguished mayor joins us here tonight. A lot of good restaurants, by the way, in Belleville, Mr. Mayor.
A lot of great restaurants. Anytime you're around, we have the legendary Belmont Tavern, known for their chicken Savoy. We have some great restaurants in Belleville.
Absolutely. Now, Michael, if I can call you Michael, that's okay.
Sure.
I just have to say, though, you know, for a lot of people that get involved in politics, obviously, even as an independent, you know, New Jersey's such a really blue state, and there are pockets that are a little red or purplish, as we've come to know. Being a mayor of a very large city in New Jersey and not having an affiliation, that's news to me, and I think it's been news to a lot of people in New Jersey. But before we get to that, what really drew you to politics?
I mean, I had an interest in politics from an early age. I can remember being a teenager and just having an interest in national politics and paying attention. I was probably one of the more knowledgeable or educated teenagers into my high school years, into my college years. I chose not to seek that as a major when I went to college. Instead, I went to communications with a minor in broadcasting. But I just always had an interest in politics on the national level. And then even I got a little older into college, even somewhat more the international level as well.
Any favorite presidents growing up? Obviously, you're a reader of history like I am. Any presidents that really just commanded your attention?
I mean, I have to say that probably Ronald Reagan. I had the ability to grow up as a youngster watching Ronald Reagan. One of my earliest memories, actually, being home from school sick. and watching on a black and white television in our kitchen. And that was the day of the assassination attempt. So I was able to actually watch that live as a youngster on a black and white TV with little antennas. And I like Reagan because, you know what, he was a Democrat, he was a Republican. By today's standards, he'd certainly be a moderate, I think, with some conservative principles, and that's something that I was really drawn to.
When you talk about moderates, I mean, John F. Kennedy right now is rolling in his grave, Michael, thinking about what's happened to his Democratic Party going on 60 years now. So, but we'll get into national politics a little bit later. But keeping it local in Belleville, it's interesting though, Michael, because again, you're an independent. And New Jersey, by and large, yes, when we talk about mayors, we think about mostly Democratic mayors, right? In the larger cities,
Sure.
where I live in Hudson County, the nearby city of Jersey City, it's pretty much as blue as Windex here. I mean, every town is run by a Democrat, essentially. Nearby Bergen County, almost the same dynamic, even though, for example, in Paramus, I know there was a flip last week. So that was interesting, good to see that in Paramus. But by and large, whether it's Newark, Jersey City, Elizabeth, New Brunswick, Camden, Trenton, Atlantic City, I mean, it's basically all Democrat-run cities by those mayors. You're an independent. And I think we've spoken before off the air, had the pleasure of meeting you at an event in Hackensack over the summer. It seems like you really have come to represent the essence and really how important it is to be bipartisan, because you'll work with anybody.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. I mean, it's interesting to note that, yes, while I'm an unaffiliated or an independent, as my registration stands by my voter registration, the township of Belleville, where I govern, is actually a nonpartisan town. So our elections are not held upon party lines. That's why we're elected in May. We do not go through a June primary. We don't have a November general election. So we're a nonpartisan town, which is not unlike many towns. Most people don't realize this, but the largest city in New Jersey, the city of Newark, you think of that as always having a Democrat mayor. Well, they're also a nonpartisan town. Their elections are in May. Patterson, the number 3 largest city in New Jersey. Mayor Andre is a dear friend of mine. He's a Democrat, nonpartisan, elected when I'm elected in May. So not every single, even though you might be a large city or a large municipality in New Jersey, you don't always have those party elections. But I agree with you. It's not easy governing as an independent because, as you so eloquently stated earlier, it just seems like everything goes down party lines, whether you're Republican, whether you're a Democrat, whether it's the county machines that get involved. Even your legislative districts, your legislative leadership, your congressional leadership, everything goes right down party lines. And in New Jersey, for the most part, where we are in northern New Jersey, it's all Democrats. So I tell people all the time, being an independent mayor, people think it's great. You have friends on both sides of the aisle. And I say, yeah, you really don't have friends on both sides of the aisle. You're a independent mayor. You walk down the center street and you often get hit by cars on both sides.
No, absolutely. And again, case in point, I know last year going into the hotly contested gubernatorial election, and I'll tell you right now, I'm someone, Mayor, where I was the only journalist in the state on record saying that, hey, this gubernatorial election is going to be a lot closer than people think. It's not going to be a sort of a walk-off for Governor Murphy. I said Governor Murphy. I get confused sometimes. It's a Freudian slip there, folks. But it seemed a lot of people thought the emperor was going to have just walk away with a 10-point win. And I said, folks, there are pockets of New Jersey that are very unhappy with how the governor handled COVID, the way he shut down businesses, the way he handled it. I think, folks, here's a newsflash, right? The left that I love to go after in New Jersey is all about science. Well, we're learning about science that freedom-loving states like Florida, and congratulations to Governor DeSantis, thankfully, up for another 4 years. And the freedom-loving state of Texas, congratulations once again, thankfully, to Greg Abbott in Texas for another 4 years there. They got it right when it came to COVID. Not Phil Murphy, not Andrew Cuomo, clearly not Kathy Hochul, not Ned Lamont in Connecticut, not the Pennsylvania governor. It just seemed like I told people, Murphy's going to have a problem. I wasn't in love with Jack sometimes. There were some things about his campaign I would have done differently, but I said, Jack's going to give him a run for his money. And sure enough, I was the only one that said, hey, I think the emperor is going to squeak out a 3 to 4 point win. And people are like, Fernando, you're crazy. I got so many dinners. I got so many drinks coming my way tomorrow and Wednesday at the league, Michael, because I'm going to cash in on that. I was the only one that said that. I think people were really, really oblivious to the fact that the governor really was running the state into the ground. He won re-election, but by the skin of his teeth. And you endorsed Jack Ciattarelli and you got a lot of grief for that. Take me back through that entire process and all of the vitriol that I knew you were getting.
Yeah, for sure. There's no doubt about that. Let me just say, from the beginning, people asked me, how did it come about? Where did it come from? I did not know Jack prior to the election, but what Jack did, which is something rare for candidates. He reached out. Jack reached out, and I remember the first time we went to dinner. He came to Belleville, and we had dinner in Belleville. I sat down with him. I looked him in the eye. We had frank conversations about several different wide-ranging topics. Listen, there was no secret that I was frustrated at times with Governor Murphy, and I was certainly frustrated at times with the Murphy administration and how they treated Belleville. Belleville's a 48,000 population community, a 48% Hispanic community, and I often say that we're a beige community. We're not as urban as the city of Newark is, but we border Newark. And I was not happy with the way that Belleville was treated during our lead water line crisis and our water crisis that Newark went through. And I compared how the governor's staff and how he reached out directly to the city of Newark. And many, many times I said, governor's office, residents of Belleville drink the same exact water. How come we're not getting the help that Newark is getting? And it just kept falling on deaf ears all the time. And that was one example. I can't say that I make major decisions like that just based on one disagreement. But there was more than one there. And when Jack reached out, you boil me down. I'm a moderate. I'm a centrist. Some would say that I lean probably more right than left. I've never been a registered Democrat, contrary to some bad journalism that you might have seen. I've never been a registered Democrat. I was for some period of time, though, a Republican, and grew up basically a conservative Republican. And when Jack reached out, I just said, you know what? It seems like New Jersey is ready for a guy like Jack. Yeah, he's not way right, but he's certainly not way left. And I saw something that was very unique in our community, our Hispanic community. Given the opportunity, I had a strange, sneaky suspicion that they were going to break for the Republican. And they're not really registered Republicans. And I have to say, they probably would vote Democrat most of the time. But when the Democrats take things way too far to the left, they will springboard you back to the center. And we saw that in the election results. Jack came close. Jack did much better in Belleville than Murphy did 4 years before that. And, Belleville Hispanics spoke. And I think that that's a larger picture needs to get looked at by both the Republican Party and the Democrat Party. Hispanics in New Jersey are in play. You want to take the state way left. Hispanics going to have a problem with that. And I think we saw that. And I think it did spook some of the Democrat Party when they saw those results come in last November.
Absolutely. And by the way, when you mentioned about bad journalism in New Jersey, you're kidding. That exists, Michael? Bad journalism in New Jersey? No way. No way. Oh, please. Of course. I'll talk more about that later tonight. But folks, if you're just joining us live right now, it's 6:14 here on the East Coast on Jersey First TV via StreamYard on Facebook Live, as well as on the Jersey First YouTube page. My guest this week is the distinguished mayor of Belleville, New Jersey, the Honorable Michael Melham, joining us here tonight. Folks, it's a double main event. We got a great guest coming up at 6:35. You want to stick around. And once again, also this week's winners of the worst journalists in the state of New Jersey, a jam-packed show, to say the least here. Michael, you talk about, again, sort of the appearance of being bipartisan. It's interesting because, you got a lot of grief for a picture with Jack and endorsing Jack. And just last week, right, you're taking a picture with U.S. Representative Mikey Sherrill, sort of arm wrestling the former Air Force commander. I'm sure you got grief for that as well. So you can never win by being down the middle per se. As an independent, you'll get grief from both sides. But that's not the way you govern. I've looked at your record. I've looked at the way you govern in Belleville. Again, I think you're a very pragmatic mayor. And that's important. You don't fall into this whole woke nonsense. You're not trying to engage in propaganda. It just seems like you're a very practical and pragmatic politician. I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in the most complimentary of fashion.
Thank you. So you're absolutely right. I got flack for the Jack thing, a lot of flack. I get some flack when I do step out, when those view some of my actions from my photo ops as political or as partisan, I should say. So you're right. Last week I was arm wrestling with Mikey Sherrill. She was in Belleville, and you know what? Just like with Jack, Mikey's staff reached out. And she reached out early on. I welcomed her as I would have any candidate that was coming through. So interestingly, for those who aren't up, Belleville was in the congressional district. So we had Albio series. And during redistricting, that got shifted around. So we had no representative come after the November election. So we did not know who our representative was going to be come this January. So we had Mikey Sherrill, who kind of got put into that district, and Mikey Sherrill had a challenger. Mikey Sherrill reached out. Her staff reached out. Interestingly, and I've had this very frank conversation. There's no secret about that. I am an independent mayor, registered independent of a nonpartisan town, and I'm somebody who was a mayor in Essex County who endorsed Jack Ciattarelli. Well, guess what? The Republican that was running for Congress in our district never even reached out. No phone call, no message on social media, never reached out. So when Mikey's staff reached out, I took a pretty, top-down look at it and said, more than likely, I know where I live. I live in Essex County. I kind of have an idea on where these numbers are going to go, even though the red wave was predicted. Even if the red wave happened, it doesn't always reach north of New Jersey. So I kind of had an idea on where this thing was going to go. I did meet with Mikey probably 2 or 3 times, which is almost 2 or 3 times more than Albio was actually ever in Belleville. Mikey was here with me about 4 times, and I sat with her. We had very frank conversations, and she was honest with me, and I was honest with her. But at the end of the day, I don't really give a damn about federal or national politics. I don't care about your policy on abortion. I don't care about your policy on even climate change. I care about whether or not I, as a mayor of an independent town, can actually work with you. And I care whether or not you're going to deliver for Belleville. I care if I pick up the phone and call you, you take that call or you get back to me. And I've had to do that. Listen, we got changed again in the legislative district. I was in the 29th district, and all female delegation, all Democrats. I deal with Democrats at the county level, at the state level, and at the federal level. And I have to say, we have a great, they're no longer going to be in our district. We're now in the 34th, but I had a great working relationship with them. I don't care how you govern in your position, county, state, or federal. I care about how you're going to treat Belleville. I care about, as long as I can represent Belleville well and ask when things need to be asked for and have that communication. That's what I care more about.
And it's interesting because I had interviewed Paul DeGroot a few weeks back. It's disappointing to hear that he had not reached out to you because, a guy who was the underdog clearly in that race wasn't getting as much fundraising dollars as other Republican candidates for House seats. I mean, you would think that he would have reached out to you. Again, a guy that's amenable to backing a Republican, a guy that's amenable to backing someone who has a law enforcement background, that believes in law and order like Paul DeGroot. But it was a weird election cycle. And I'm glad you brought up Mikey Sherrill because certainly she won re-election very convincingly in her district. Republicans, I was hoping for a really big red tsunami. It was barely a ripple. The only House seat that flipped was in CD7. That was the Battle of the Toms. Tom Kane Jr. defeated Tom Malinowski. Obviously, Andy Kim won another term. Bill Pascrell, Frank Pallone. Up here where I live in CD8 in Hudson County, Rob Menendez Jr. won very convincingly. And, these were pretty, again, I look at someone like Rob, and he's a friend of mine, but he's sort of, a middle-of-the-road Democrat. He's not some woke, insane leftist. Congrats to, Josh Gottheimer in CD5 next door in Bergen County. Again, another guy, who's a Democrat who's kind of middle of the road, not like this crazy leftist, like the Puerto Rican princess in New York, right? Like, AOC over there. These are sort of pragmatic Democrats. I found it odd that, Republicans know they're behind the 8 ball during this midterm. Why they want to reach out to a mayor that has considerable influence like you, I think is mind-boggling. So, again, chalk it up to a lesson learned. I think maybe in 2 years, whoever runs in CD11, I think, right? That's
8. Yes, we were 8, now 11.
Yep. Well, hopefully they'll learn their lesson and reach out to all the mayors accordingly. Michael, it was weird last Tuesday. Obviously, Republicans, from what it looks like today, will have a very slim majority in the House. I think like 219 to 216. I'll take it. The Senate obviously is in a state Democrat, which I was, pretty much expecting. It was kind of a jump ball scenario. Where did Republicans go wrong in New Jersey? It seemed like inflation, food prices, gas prices, an immensely unpopular president. It's funny to me, as I said last Tuesday, people tend to vote with their pockets or vote on kitchen table issues. It seemed like that wasn't the case in New Jersey, and I don't know why.
I mean, I think it was probably the Republican election to lose. I mean, it wasn't just New Jersey. I mean, you look everywhere. I mean, look at Pennsylvania. I mean, that election result for the U.S. Senate was kind of shocking. It really was. But I think it was the Republicans' election to lose. I think that there's this interesting concept. We're hearing it now, especially with the Senate, with Mitch McConnell. Did Mitch really want to win? Are they more comfortable, keeping their legislative or keeping their leadership positions? And that conversation, Fernando, when you and I met for the first time at that Bergen County event, I had this conversation with the state chairman. I said, do Republicans in New Jersey really want to win, or are they content keeping their current posts and their current positions? Because once they win their majority, the deck gets shuffled a bit. And I'm not quite sure that the Republicans are really there that want to win. I think a lot of them are establishment people, and they just are content with where they are. They're content with their leadership positions, even though they might be in the minority. I think it's a shame. I do think there's going to be an ability for the grassroots to wake. I think we saw that a couple of years ago in New Jersey, and I'm hoping that we continue to see that. It's all about grassroots organizing.
You're absolutely right, folks. At 6:21 here on the East Coast. Don't go anywhere. We got a great double main event today. We got a great guest. The editor of the New Jersey Globe, David Wildstein, exclusively joins me at the bottom of the hour, so stay tuned for that. Joining me now live is the distinguished mayor of Belleville, New Jersey, the Honorable Michael Melham. Michael, you hit on something really important there, and I'm with you. And I think it sort of applies to New Jersey as well, where do Republicans really want this? Did they really want to take the ball into the end zone, or were they just happy sort of settling for a field goal? And that's what really bothered me, because I think that, I was one of those guys that I didn't want Joe Biden getting another Supreme Court pick if the opportunity arose. I didn't want him picking more federal judges, or at least nominating them and the Senate just confirming them. I wanted a Republican majority. That didn't happen. Oh, well. Hopefully Republicans at the national level can maybe go back to the drawing board. I don't know if they will or they can or they won't. I don't know. It remains to be seen. But moving on to next year in 2023, it's a legislative year. All 80 assembly seats are up for grabs. All 40 state Senate seats are up for grabs. And listen, I'm not doing this because I'm not auditioning for a position with the NJGOP. I'm very happy working in higher education. I'm very happy in journalism, doing what I do with my shows. I think Bob Hugin's under the microscope here. I think Bob Hugin, as the chair of the state party, has a lot of work to do. I get it. He can be happy about Tom Kean winning, but it seemed like the NJGOP could have done more to help Paul DeGroot, to help, Bob Healy, to help other Republicans maybe win some seats. And I get it that there was this hysteria about abortion where it's codified in New Jersey and New York, but still got weaponized. Other things that Republicans, I think, dropped the ball on. Don't even get me started on polling, because that's, I think, a science that no longer many people don't trust anymore. It's still valuable. Don't get me wrong. It's still valuable. But I think we have to fine tune a little bit. I think that going into 2023, Republicans made some gains in 21. Ed Durr did the unthinkable in defeating Steve Sweeney, being the state senator down in LD3. Republicans sent, I believe, 7 women to the assembly. I think Republicans have a chance to maybe make some inroads next year during those legislative races. But again, it falls on Bob Hugin. It falls on the NJGOP knocking on doors, reach out to mayors like you with a message that could resonate. I'll be very honest with you. I don't have a lot of faith right now in the NJGOP, but that's because I'm a cynic. Is that fair to say?
I think it is fair to say. I mean, just what I was even saying before. You're totally right. Next year, the House is up. The Assembly's up here in New Jersey. We're in a brand new district for Belleville, so we lose our 29th representation. We go to the 34th. But interesting, as much as you and I met at a Republican Bergen County event, people said to me, well, how come you never speak at a Democrat event? And I say, I've never been asked. It's that simple. I've just never been asked. But interestingly, though, I do have a good relationship with State Chairman Leroy Jones. Leroy and I go to breakfast 3 or 4 times a year. We sit down at the Nevada Diner in Bloomfield, and we have breakfast. And something, Fernando, I've actually never been with Mr. Hugin. I've met him once. I've never had any communication with him. We have no open dialogue. I can't even name the Essex County Republican chairman. And again, I'm an independent mayor who endorses Jack Chiarelli.
Right there, I'll let you finish. I'm sorry. I'll let you finish. Right there. That is telling me all I need to hear. Again, Bob, you need to put your foot on the pedal here and not be just sort of lackadaisical. Listen, just because election day came and went, you got to get back to work. You got to roll up those sleeves. You got to reach out to mayors like Michael Melham, to other mayors that are independents, or at least, going into next year, don't just say, well, this district's blue, I'm not going to bother. You got to push good candidates. If we learned anything from last Tuesday, is when you run mediocre candidates, and let's be honest, there were a lot of them nationally, you're going to get the result you pay for, as they say. You want to go to the dollar store and get dishwasher liquid? Great. When it doesn't wash your dishes correctly, that's why you buy Palmolive. You got to pay a little bit more money. You get what you pay for. I think that next year, Republicans got to get their act together, Michael, because guess what? They're going to fall into the same rut that we saw last Tuesday. I'm sorry, I'll let you finish, Michael.
No, that's fine. Like we're in the 34th district. We don't have a full slate, so most people don't realize this. We have no senator yet. We have we have 2 assembly people and no senate, the new district that got created. So that's going to be an interesting conversation. You know what? I want a seat at that table. I want to sit down with the chair people that are making the decisions as to who runs or who gets the line. Belleville is now in a position where we are the 3rd largest municipality in the newly created 34th district. And right now we have Assemblyman Caputo. We have another assemblywoman from East Orange. We have no senator. So if there's 3 slots, if there's going to be a Senate and 2 assembly slots, and Belleville represents the 3rd largest population in that district, I want to make sure that Belleville has a seat at that table.
Well said. Before I let you go, Mr. Mayor, obviously you are in Atlantic City for the League of Municipalities. I'll be heading down there tomorrow. You know, it's funny because people just think the League of Municipalities is really about all the open bars and the networking and the cocktail parties. And, you know, I go because I like to socialize and, you know, get together with females. That's my thing down there. But there's a lot to be done at the League of Municipalities. During the day, there's wonderful workshops, important networking events. And really, I think as an institution, the League of Municipalities serves a very important role, I think, in local, county, and state government. And I don't think it really gets enough attention, Michael.
It really does. This is actually my 26th year coming down here. I've been doing this a long time. It's not all fun and games. I'm working right now. Tomorrow I'll be speaking. I'm the first mayor in the history of Belleville to actually get a speaking slot at the league. I'm starting off a clean community seminar at 2:00. So it's about networking. It's about seeing my colleagues, about sitting down with them, talking with them, finding out what they're doing in their communities. And it's also about the trade show and seeing the different vendors, seeing all the different equipment that's available. This is it. This is what we do. It's my 26th year. I'm proud to be here. I'm looking forward to it.
I'll make sure to text you tomorrow. Let's try to grab a beer or a bite to eat or something in the next couple of days, Michael. You're great to talk to, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, I wish I could talk to you for 2 more hours. We still wouldn't get through everything. But before I let you go, I want to thank you for your time. I know you've slowly but surely have become a fan of the show quietly. That might piss off some of your liberal friends, but I think you've become a fan of the show. So I thank you for that. I thank you for your appearance. And I'll give you the last word here tonight.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. It's been the honor. Like you said, it's been a great time. Every time we've met, we've had some great conversations, some frank conversation. I like the fact that you cater to people from both sides. I'm somebody that's kind of down the middle of the road. As I often say, I'm used to getting hit by cars on both sides. So it's nice to be as warmly received as I was tonight. Thank you.
I'm hit from every side as well, Michael. Folks, he is the distinguished mayor of Belleville, New Jersey, the Honorable Michael Melham, joining us here tonight on Jersey First TV. On Real Talk with Fernando. Mr. Mayor, I'll see you in Atlantic City this week for the league. And thank you so much for supporting Jersey First TV.
Thank you.
Take care. Folks, I'll tell you, an amazing, amazing mayor in Essex County, and really one of those independent mayors that, quite frankly, I think is on the rise, and a guy you got to watch out for because he talks to everybody. He's influential, and he's a fan of the show. So I appreciate Michael Melham, again, the distinguished mayor of Belleville, New Jersey. Once again, folks, always remember, check out Jersey First TV on all of our social media platforms. Make sure you like Real Talk with Fernando on Facebook, and of course, yours truly on Facebook. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter at the same handle, at the Fernando Zone. And also check out Jersey First TV on their YouTube page. And now our episodes are available on Spotify and on SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasts, whether you're working out, taking a bath, grading papers, driving down to the League of Municipalities like I will be. Guess what? Tune in, download the episodes, and you can check out not just my show, but all the great content brought to you by Jersey First TV. Certainly there available for you. And folks, again, as I mentioned, certainly one of the reasons that this show does exceptionally well every week in all organic traffic is because of you, my loyal viewing audience, but also, and just as importantly, it's the exceptional and exclusive guests that I bring you every single week. And as I mentioned at the top of the program, obviously, we have a double main event here. And as someone, again, folks, and as a reminder, stay tuned because at the end of the show, I will announce this week's winners of the worst journalist in the week here in the state of New Jersey. There's always a lot to pick from. But you know what? One guy that I know is never going to be on my list because he's a guy that breaks news, writes exceptional columns, and he's a journalist that I respect. I'm hoping maybe even after today, that he'll respect me as well, folks. He is the distinguished editor of the New Jersey Globe. You can check it out at newjerseyglobe.com. He is hopefully a fan of the show and of myself. The great David Wildstein joins us here tonight on Real Talk. David, how are you?
I'm well, Fernando. How are you?
Good to have with you. I know you don't do a lot of these, David, so I'm really privileged to have you on here. I read the New Jersey Globe daily, obviously. You're the one breaking news. And while everybody is sort of playing catch up, man, you're breaking news. You're getting the scoops that nobody else is doing it. Nobody else. I'll drop some names later in terms of like what news sites, but no one's really doing the job that New Jersey Globe is doing. David, I have to ask you, what's the secret here? What's in the sauce, man? What makes New Jersey Globe the success that it is?
First of all, I think it's hard work. I think it's knowing that you have to work every single day to talk to people and find out what's going on, build relationships, and it's treating people with respect. It's not getting up in the morning and saying, how am I going to mess with somebody today? It's a back and forth in terms of finding information, verifying it, making sure it's accurate, and then going with it. As you know, you have to have a relationship with your audience, and they have to trust you, and they have to know that if you say something, that it's accurate and that it's fair and that it's been vetted.
And Dave, you're the guy that really gets the scoops. You're the one that, again, gets to host all the debates. I've only moderated a couple forums. I mean, it's like you're on this mountain, dude. Like everyone talks to you. All the debates go through the New Jersey Globe. I mean, again, it's amazing. And I get it. Listen, and I'm sure maybe you'll get some grief for this. Yeah. I know I'm going to get some grief. Like, oh, Fernando, I can't believe you had Wildstein on. I say it consistently. I talk to everybody in this state. I try to, at least. And I talk to the people that are making news, but more importantly, breaking news. And that's what the Globe does, I think, better than anybody, David. And I think that's what's helped distinguish your brand of journalism. Again, I'm opinion journalism. I'm not breaking news like you are. You do write columns. You do have some opinion pieces, no doubt. You do streaming as well with segments. Obviously, you have a great thing with WABC Radio in New York, with what you do with the Globe, obviously streaming online. But what you're doing, I think, is very different, where we're not seeing other news sites breaking stories anymore. Again, when it comes to polling, when it comes to breaking news, you're really at the top of the food chain and really at the front of the line. Does that bring you some vitriol?
It does. It does. I mean, it brings me, and you're very kind to say it. You really are. But it concerns me also. It saddens me that the old media, that the old print newspapers that are failing so miserably, that they're not doing that they're allowing other people to come in. They are bigger. They have more bodies. They should be spread out and talking to exponentially more people than I do. But it's all about priorities. And look, I mean, I don't, there's some free market issues here too. These newspapers are for-profit companies. They're in it to make a profit. And if what it takes to keep the lights on at a Newark-based daily newspaper is to talk about where to get good pizza and what the best hair salon is and proms and bagels, if that's what it takes, then that's what they got to do. It's their business. They have a right to cover what they want to cover. But what bothers me is that they sometimes will present themselves to be the leading authority and then not do anything. It drives me crazy. I'm sure it does you too. A couple of days before the election, you'll see a story saying, here's everything you need to know about the 11th district congressional race, except for the fact that they didn't cover it at all for months and months and months. And that's frustrating. I worked for the Star Ledger. I was a paper boy for the Star Ledger. I was a sports correspondent for them in the mid and late 1970s. They paid me to report on high school sports. I used to get up early on a Sunday morning and read their opinion columns. So the fact that some people are kind enough to think the New Jersey Globe is beating them, that doesn't bring me tremendous pleasure. It makes me concerned about where are these journalists and why aren't they covering local news and why aren't they holding people more accountable?
No, well said, David. And folks, if you're just joining us right now, it's 6:37 here on the East Coast. Tonight's double main event, folks. Joining me now live is the distinguished editor of the New Jersey Globe, David Wildstein, here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. David, you mentioned something about old media, and we'll get to that in a moment, but I really want to pick your brain. I had the pleasure of appearing with you last week on a great show with Joey Block, fellow Rutgers alumnus, in the middle on Fox Sports Radio in New Jersey. We had great back and forth last week dissecting what happened last Tuesday. We're approaching a week now, and we're seeing the election results. It seems like Republicans are going to have the slimmest of majorities in the House. I believe 219 to 216, I think, maybe when it's all said and done. The Senate stayed with the Democrats. But something that we talked about last week on the other show, and I really wanted to sort of delve into with you here tonight, was I think that polling was also another victim during this election season, because polling told us consistently you have an immensely unpopular president. You had inflation, food prices, gas prices. It was just everything was working. You had crime waves on the rise in cities. Again, I live in Hudson County. I look at Manhattan every day. I've seen what's happened to Manhattan under former Mayor de Blasio, now Eric Adams, former Governor Cuomo, and now, unfortunately, reelected Governor Kathy Hochul. And I'm thinking to myself, how did Republicans, or how did pollsters get this so wrong, where Republicans didn't have the red tsunami that I expected? It was barely a ripple. And I think that maybe polling has to be reassessed. David, is that fair to say?
It's absolutely fair, and you're spot on correct. The polling has been off. I hear it from both sides. Democrats complain, Republicans complain. They don't agree with the independent polls. They even question their own independent polling or their own internal polling. This is all about modeling. And if you get the model wrong, the numbers are going to be wrong. And modeling being turnout. And if you can't, it's no good to poll, 6 people at a diner booth if 4 of them aren't going to come out and vote. So that cutoff of likely voters, making sure that the people you're polling represent what that snapshot in time is going to be on election day is really important. I'll tell you, one of the things that I'm starting to look at is the people that I believe are not the pollsters. It's the data guys. It's the Steve Kornacki, New Jersey alum. It's David Wasserman at Cook Political Report. It's the people that are making their projections, voicing their opinions based upon voter history and what they're seeing in terms of numbers and demographics. Those are the ones that got this election day right.
And David, I think that also maybe someone needs to say this out loud. I don't mind saying it out loud. I say a lot of things out loud. Maybe I shouldn't. But, when you think about the modeling of answering phone calls, answering texts, I mean, again, we live in a very transient time where people's attention span isn't very good anymore. The idea that, and listen, young voter turnout, I think, was the deciding factor in a lot of races congressionally around the country. I think, Generation Z, 18 to maybe 25, I think, made a big difference. Millennials to some extent too. But when it comes to polling, I think we might have to sort of reassess how to better do it, because, listen, people don't answer phone calls. I mean, I look at my phone and I get there are a lot of apps now that tell you if there's a spam risk on this phone call. A lot of people don't want to be on the phone very long. A lot of people won't take phone calls. A lot of people won't answer texts. And I think that maybe that's the model that people think, well, we still have to continue with this. I think, like anything else, I think something has to change. Something has to be upgraded. But quite frankly, I'm not the expert here. You're more of it. Is there a solution to this?
I don't know. I don't really know. What I know is that we have to all take in consideration also who we're talking to. You and I, we live inside a bubble. We all live inside these bubbles where we talk to each other, and the sounds within the bubble just they reverberate, from piece to piece, and we're all talking to the same people. People who are undecided voters. They're not as concerned as you and I are. They don't run to, they don't look at an ad on television and then rewind the ad to watch it a couple more times. They're not running out to grab look at their mailbox and see, oh, here's the political mail. Let me look at that first. They're not in search of information the same way people that are involved are. And so part of it is we've all got to start to listen to different people than just everybody else that's inside the same bubble that we all occupy.
I'm with you. And what was really frustrating, and folks, by the way, again, it's 6:40 here on the East Coast. Sharing is caring. Click that share button there if you're tuning in right now on Facebook Live via StreamYard, also on YouTube. Share it, folks. It takes 2 seconds. And joining me here tonight, live as the second half of tonight's double main event, the editor of the New Jersey Globe, David Wildstein, here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. David, it's interesting because here in New Jersey, I mean, I was realistic. I thought that the Battle of the Toms was the one district I thought that realistically was going to flip. I was trying to be optimistic. I'd interviewed Paul DeGroot a few weeks back. I liked him. I've talked him off the air. Good guy, genuine guy who worked in law enforcement as a prosecutor. Again, I think a casualty of maybe the NJGOP or the National or the RNC not putting money into that campaign. But on the flip side, someone like Bob Healy, where a lot of money was thrown at that race, some of his own personal finance as well, and that race wasn't close. I was surprised at that one. I thought that maybe, again, Frank Pallone, and I had called Rob Menendez Jr. to win his race. I had called Josh Gottheimer to win his race. I thought Frank Pallotta might give him a little bit of a battle, but I said that Josh is going to win that race. That wasn't even close. Neither was Healy. Neither was Pallone's challenger. Neither was the one that was close, obviously, that didn't win, and we talked about it last week, was Billy Premp against Bill Pascrell. That was within 10 points, and that was a surprise for many for a campaign that wasn't very well funded.
Yeah, I was surprised too. And you know, look, I think one of the obvious things here is that the map, the congressional map, and I always ask permission when I say this to see if I'm allowed to use the G word on your show. But
Sure,
this was a gerrymandered map. Gerrymandering is in the eye of the beholder. Sometimes Democrats complained about a Republican gerrymandered map. In this case, it's Republicans claiming about a Democratic gerrymandered map. And this map performed exactly as it was designed to. It was designed to sacrifice one incumbent, Tom Malinowski, in order to protect three others, Andy Kim and Josh Gottheimer and Mikey Sherrill. And that's what it did. It keeps that 7th district seat. It's competitive. It'll be competitive maybe through the decade. And districts 3, 5, and 11, they're not so competitive. They weren't drawn to be that way. And I think that's what's happening with Billy Prempa. The interesting thing to me there is you've got Bill Pascrell. He was a dutiful Democrat. He said, I've got so much excess margin that I can win by that I don't really care about. Give me some more Republican areas. I'll absorb it in order to help Gottheimer, in order to help Sherrill, in order to help make that whole map work. And then he felt it. But, there's this old adage, Fernando, do you know what they call a congressman who wins his election by one vote?
A winner.
They call him congressman. So it doesn't really matter. So you got Pascrell. He won. This was the lowest margin he's won by since he beat an incumbent, Bill Martini, in 1996. But at the end of the day, what does he care? He's 85 years old. He's going back to Congress for another 2 years. He's going to take it one term at a time. And I think part of the reality is that we're looking at simply this was a Republican. He raised more money than any other Republican spent in 26 years in that district. But at the end of the day, it also cost them a lot of money to raise it. So he didn't spend really that much more on voter persuasion. I think it was a function of a new district, of some better areas for Republicans, the places that Gottheimer and Sherrill didn't want, that Pascrell put up his hand and says, I'll take them for you. And Pascrell didn't have an opportunity to define Billy Prempa. If he had gone negative on him, maybe it would have been different. If Prempa had more money, it would have been different. So I don't know. I mean, you tell me if you think, and I shouldn't do this on your show asking you a question, but
no, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
But,
Absolutely.
Think about it. Think if they took, if instead of the money that was spent, and I'm not saying party money, but I'm saying, raise money into Pallotta, into Sue Kiley, into Paul DeGroot. What if it was all put into the ninth district, if it was all put into Billy Prempa, and suddenly now Pascrell's looking at FEC reports and saying, "Oh my God, this guy's got $1.5 million, $2 million. I better do something." Do you think the outcome might have been a closer race, or do you think it might have been a wider margin for him?
I think it might have been somewhat closer, David. But again, and we talked about this last week when we were on Joey Block's show. Democrats have just done a great job over the last few years of registering more Democrats. Their ground game has just gotten efficiently better. Don't get me started on vote by mail, because I'm going to say some things that are probably going to get me in trouble. But they just have gotten really efficient at it. And I would just argue that I think there needs to be a little accountability here on Bob Hugin. I don't know if you listened a little bit to the end of my interview with Belleville Mayor Michael Melham. But I think there needs to be some focus on Bob Hugin. Again, and I'm not auditioning for a job. I'm not trying to be state chair. I'm very busy working in higher education, working in media. Believe me, I'm busy. Okay. Philanthropy. I'm a busy guy. I'm not trying to be the next NJGOP chair. But I think there needs to be some, not reckoning, but some accountability here about what Bob Hugin's going to do effective now on. Next year, there are legislative races. And to your point, I think that maybe we need to look at what he didn't do right in this cycle. Yes, he can hang his hat on Tom Kean Jr. winning, but there were other races that were winnable. Whether maybe he should have made more money from the RNC. Maybe he should have recruited better, had more volunteers. It's easy for me to Monday morning quarterback this, David, like a lot of us can try to do. But I just think that there needs to be some accountability on Bob Hugin, and I don't think that there is right now. I'm not trying to call for his head. Let's not get it twisted, folks. I just think there needs to be a little more accountability on him, because there were some races that were winnable.
Well, I don't know. I think one of the places where Bob Hugin was very effective for Republicans was in fundraising. He saw to it that some county races were fully funded. I thought Gloucester County for sure was going to flip red, and if not for Democrats getting a wake-up call last year and realizing we could lose the whole enchilada, we could lose control of the courthouse, the county clerk, they're already down 2 commissioners, they're already down a sheriff. It would have been a seismic shift right in former Senate President Steve Sweeney's backyard. So they regrouped and they figured out what they needed to do to win, and they just pumped the hell out of early voting and vote by mail, and that's where they got it. But and they get props for recognizing the problem. In politics, if you have to be told that your hair is on fire, then it is too late. You can't recover. And so, but Hugin did well there. He they over 6 figures going into a Republican super PAC. He put some of his own money in. They took control in Cumberland County, and this was if What Republicans needed in New Jersey this year was they needed to ride a wave. New Jersey, face it, it's a blue state. There's 1 million more Democrats than there are Republicans. That'll go down once all the voter purging is done in February or March. But it's a Democratic state, and the only way Republicans were going to overcome that was to ride a wave. If the wave wasn't there, then a lot of these races just were never winnable for them.
No, absolutely, David. Folks, it's 6:48 here on the East Coast. Here, we're wrapping up shortly here with the editor of the New Jersey Globe, David Wildstein, joining us here on Jersey First TV on Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. David, it's election day is come and gone, but now we start thinking about 2023 legislative races. Obviously, a little bit, not an indictment, but maybe a report on how the governor's doing. Again, I was the only journalist last year that called that race and said Jack is going to give him a fight. There are plenty of pockets in New Jersey where the emperor, I'm sorry, it's a Freudian slip. I keep saying it all the time. I have to get away from that. The emperor, sorry, you see, I did again, was only going to win by 3 or 4 points. And everyone said, Fernando, you're crazy. Murphy's going to win this in a romp. I said, he got COVID wrong. I think we learned that already. We've seen how great states like Florida did it with Ron DeSantis. Thank God he got reelected. Same thing in Texas. Thank God that Greg Abbott got reelected. But it seemed like blue governors, and I hate to be tribal about this. I'm not trying to be tribal about science, but it just seemed like blue governors like Phil Murphy, Andrew Cuomo, and then Kathy Hochul, and then Lamont, whatever, got it wrong about COVID. And I thought that, hey, this is where Jack can really maybe pull off the upset And to say nothing of the fact that I think 35% of registered Republicans came out last November. That's the reason, I would argue, one of them, why we're seeing Governor Phil Murphy and not Governor Jack Ciattarelli. Republicans just stayed home because they just tend to be tribal, David. It's aggravating. If you want to change New Jersey from this one-party system for almost 20 years in the legislature, and yeah, there have been some more Republican governors and Democratic governors, but Republicans don't seem to get off their ass and want to vote. And I think that's what dooms them, David.
Yeah, turnout in some places helped Ciattarelli, in some places, urban turnout was way down. That contributed to the margins being close, but suburban, white, highly educated, liberal-leaning suburban towns turned out in huge numbers for Murphy, and those are places that Republicans have lost. I mean, I think Maplewood gave Phil Murphy more votes than the South Ward of Newark did. So Ciattarelli also benefited from some lethargic turnout on that side also, and I think I think going into 2023, this is that cycle. This is the point where there's no marquee name at the head of the ticket. You think that Congress doesn't turn people out to vote when there's no president or U.S. Senate candidate out there. Watch these cycles where the state legislature heads the ticket, and that has an opportunity for some upsets. And Republicans, for the first time since the 1990s, have a map where there is a path to a majority. It's a narrow path. Everything has to go right, but it's there.
No, you're absolutely right. David, one of the things, and we'll get back to sort of 2023 in a moment, but I just want to ask you, I have a pretty thick skin. I know you have a thick skin.
Yeah.
But what's the secret? Because again, I mean, whether or not you want to answer this or not, it's up to you. But I mean, obviously, columns can be written at any time. I know your friend Tom Moran had a little bit to say today in the Star Ledger about you. Yeah. I know he's taking you to task, maybe even threatening legal action against you. How do you deal with that sort of, not chicanery, but that venom and vitriol from people like Tom Moran, who I've gone after too? I think he's a full-blown leftist. I go after Alan Steinberg, another clown that I have no problem calling out in Jersey media.
Alan Steinberg, always wrong. He's reliable that way.
Listen, Alan Steinberg is about as reliable as his New York Mets are in October. Let's be honest about it. So this is the thing, though, David. I have a thick skin? I know you do as well. Is it just practice? I mean, what's the key to not getting your feathers ruffled? Again, just seeing a column like today that Tom Moran and the Star Ledger published about you, taking some jabs at you. How do you handle that? And like with grace, do you try to fight back?
I don't care. I mean, Tom has been like this. He's a bully. He's always been a bully. He doesn't do well when people call him out. He wrote his column in retaliation for one that I wrote this morning that said that Tom Moran's editorial board just doesn't have the clout that it used to. And I think there's some fact there. I think there's some fact. And these guys, their business model is failing miserably, and some of these guys have to just take some responsibility for the fact that people aren't reading them for a reason. So I don't care what Tom Moran has to say. And I and by the way, that's a bipartisan thing. You've had two governors in a row, Chris Christie and Phil Murphy. They don't care what Tom Moran has to say. So you get old. This is my I'm finishing my 49th year in New Jersey politics. I started very young, but this is my 49th year, and I've had smarter people take shots at me than Tom Moran. So I don't care.
David, you don't look a day over 40. What's going on here? Moisturizer, what's going on here? What's up? I mean, really?
I started real young, but I was there. So
wow, I'll tell you. Do me a favor, text me that moisturizer you're using because it's working, brother. I gotta say. Any validity to that in the column today about legal action, that he has a legal case or anything like that? Or is that just hot air by Tom?
I don't. I used his legal action is that I used the photo of him on an Instagram post. I mean, he's a public figure. and
Yeah.
he posted it on a social media site, and I used his photo. This is just another example. Tom Moran is just a big, big baby. Can't take it, can dish it out, can punch people in the face, but God forbid you come over and say, Tom Moran, you did something wrong. He gets, he gets all defensive. He can't take it. And
I'm with you.
I wouldn't want to be in his position. I wouldn't be wanting to be working for a place where you work hard and you write things and people don't read what you write, and hiding behind some paywall. So, if it makes Tom Moran feel a little bit better as a human being to take some shots and to retaliate, let him. What do I care?
Fair enough. Good point there about Tom Moran and the Star Ledger. You brought up a good point, though, David, about old media and sort of the model that I think the Star Ledger exemplifies, the Bergen Record, and a lot of these sort of old school institutions where, listen, I'm a guy that still likes to go to my front porch and get the paper because I'm a sports guy. I like to read the sports first and then read it, but that's not the media we live in anymore. Again, social media has changed dramatically the way we consume news, going back to the mid 2000s with the creation of Facebook. And then a few years later, actually the year after, with YouTube, and then Twitter, and then Instagram, and then Snapchat, TikTok, et cetera, et cetera. It just seems, websites, not physically, tangibly reading the paper. Print circulations have gone way down. I think it's really an indictment of the fact that, as you said, it is a for-profit model. I think people are getting away from that. And that's why a lot of these institutions, A, are no longer profitable like they used to be, and B, people aren't reading them and they're relying on alternative news sites like yours and others for their news. And quite frankly, I think it's tragic because, again, I love physically reading the news. That's just something we're not doing anymore, David.
We're not. And part of it is you've got to change with the times. I mean, I don't see a fax machine in your shot behind you. But there was a point where we couldn't live without, fax were new technology. We all couldn't live without it. You got to change. You got to keep current. And this idea that they're going to print something in a newspaper and deliver it to people's homes, with the idea that you will not have seen it. I mean, I remember I'd get up, and I was a political junkie, as I said, from a young age, but I still went to the sports section first because the only way to know how all the teams did the night before was to look at it in the paper the next day. We don't need them anymore for that. And there's so many things we don't need them for. But I remember, again, I'm going to age myself, but as a young councilman and mayor, I was elected 38 years ago. I would have a council meeting and you'd have 2 daily newspapers and a weekly newspaper there, and they were covering what you did. And people were concerned about what the newspaper said. An editorial, got us all frightened if somebody was poking around. Newspapers kept in the old days, they kept people honest. And now, if nobody's reading the newspapers, what do you care what they write? And that's a problem for democracy.
Absolutely. And David, before I let you go, I know you have something coming up at the bottom of the hour, and I appreciate your time. David, I've really enjoyed our conversation. I definitely want to have you back on again soon. I think I've been a fair interviewer. I think we've had some fun here, man, dissecting this political climate. Is that?
I think you're a good guy. I don't have any. I have no qualms with you. You're good and you're fair, and that's how it's supposed to be. And what you do is extremely meaningful. You're reaching an audience and you're presenting a point of view that people can't get everywhere, and that's so important. That's what old media used to do. They would bring both sides together and present the facts. That's all really what we want, is a voter to get both sides of a position presented to them fairly and accurately, and then let them decide who they want. Now, I'll say this if I'm not going over too much, but that's but I remember I did a debate in the 3rd district between Bob Healy and the incumbent Andy Kim, and I said something at the end. I said I might get in a little trouble for this. It's not usually what I do, but here you had 2 candidates, young candidates, 40 years old and 39 years old, and they're running for Congress in a competitive, it was supposed to be a competitive race. And I got to know them both, and they're both good guys. They're both decent human beings. They're family men. They're professionals. They're smart. And the difference is they had divergent views
Might have
on
lost David there.
how the
David,
correction.
are you with us?
Do you have me back?
I don't know if I lost Dave there.
I hear you.
Okay. Dave, are you there?
Yeah, you hear me?
I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah.
Please continue.
I don't know where I cut off, but I was just saying in the 3rd district, you had 2 really good candidates. They believed in different things. So their job was to take their divergent beliefs to the voters and let the voters decide which one they want. And how great is that for democracy when political parties do their job and they both put up good people? That's exactly what it's supposed to be like.
David, well said. Before I let you go, David, again, I want to thank you for your time. I know you don't do a lot of these, but I appreciate you want to come on this show. I think it speaks volumes about respecting this show and respecting Jersey First TV, and I appreciate your time. I'll give you the last word here.
No, I just, repeat it again. What you do, what Joey Block does, what young, reporters all over the country just trying to bring news in their own way, do it fairly, do it squarely, do it effectively, do it honestly, and everything's going to work out fine. So I thank you for everything that you're doing.
Well, David, thank you for the kind words, and I look forward. I'll definitely reach out after the league and maybe after the holidays and get you back on. Let's do this again, man. I've enjoyed the breakdown here.
Thank you very much.
Have a good one. If I don't talk to you again, have a great holiday. We'll talk to you soon here on Jersey First.
You too. Good night.
Take care, David. All right, folks. Again, great double main event tonight here. Again, starting off with Belleville Mayor Michael Melham and certainly now New Jersey Globe editor David Wildstein here on the show. And folks, I just got to say again, these are the exclusives you can always rely on because this is what Jersey First TV always does. Okay. And again, if you're just new to the show and you're tuning in for the very first time, folks, always remember, check out, of course, Jersey First TV on all our social media platforms. Make sure you like the show, Real Talk with Fernando Uribe on Facebook. And certainly, of course, make sure you like me as well. You can't miss me. I'm the very handsome guy with the New Jersey Devils jersey because, of course, I get to drink a little tea here from my first place, New Jersey Devils, not the Rangers, definitely not the Flyers, definitely not the Islanders. Yeah, it's the New Jersey Devils in first place right now. Let me have a little tea. Looking forward to hitting Prudential Center later this month for a game for the Devils. So, again, folks, hey, check it out there as well. Make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram at the Fernando Zone. Make sure also you check out Jersey First TV on their YouTube page. And now all of our episodes, not just my show, but the Nader Narrative with Elizabeth Nader and all the other great talent at Jersey First TV is available on Spotify and also on SoundCloud. Check it out, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot go wrong whatsoever by checking out Jersey First TV. Certainly on all of the aforementioned social media platforms. Sharing is caring. I appreciate all the shares. And again, folks, the organic traffic that is there. Not just a couple hundred views. You got some clowns, some ham and eggers, some slap nuts in New Jersey. Yes, slap nuts in New Jersey media with, 150 views, 200 views, 300 views. Nah. Here on this show, folks, we're talking about 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. Because, folks, it's all organic traffic. Because people care about what I have to say. Because I'm fair, I'm objective, and I'm just commonsensical, folks. All right. Again, it's not just some little moniker about being, unbiased, unafraid, and unfiltered. It's what I am, folks. It's because at the end of the day, people trust me to bring you exceptional journalism, reputable and responsible opinion journalism. You can always rely on that here on Jersey First TV. But before I let you go, folks, yes, it's that time of the night. And of course, it's time to announce this week's winners of the worst journalists in the state of New Jersey. Folks, there's a lot of them. And we all know who they are. We all know that they're clowns. We know exactly where they come from and where they reside. And of course, folks, this week's winners, once again, I had to change it up a little bit. But of course, folks, it is indeed the Three Stooges of New Jersey journalism this week. Yes, Sleepy Al, Ali Steinberg, who I know isn't awake right now. It's 7 o'clock It's way past his bedtime, so I'm sure he'll watch the replay tomorrow. Of course, Tommy Boy, Tommy Moran from the Star Ledger, and of course, Chucky, good old Chuck, Charles Style from NorthJersey.com and the Bergen Record. Of course, this week's winners of the worst journalist of the week here in the Garden State. And let me just go one at a time here, folks. Interesting, of course, to talk about Chuck. All right. And Chuck, of course, published this just a couple of days ago. 6 election takeaways to shape New Jersey politics for the next few years. Folks, you know what's really, really egregious? I think that NorthJersey.com is basically a pay service. Like if you log in, right, either using social media or you sign up with your email, you get like only a limited amount of free articles, and then it asks you to pay. Who in their right mind would pay a nickel to NorthJersey.com for garbage journalism? You need to pay me money, okay, to read NorthJersey.com. Now, again, I get these articles for free from friends of mine that let me use their username and password. Do you think I would pay money for this trash? Are you crazy? Of course not. Much less from Chucky. But of course, you know, Chuck likes to talk about, of course, the backlash on abortion lingers. Yes, Chuck, because in a state like New Jersey, where abortion is codified, just like in New York, it seems like all the insufferable feminists and all the cat ladies that stink of cat piss who read you have to keep having, I don't know, these bitching and moaning sessions about something that isn't going to affect them in New Jersey. Okay, whatever happens in Tennessee and Alabama and Texas, ladies, newsflash, that's not your problem. Okay, here in New Jersey, it's codified. So why are you still bitching and moaning is beyond me. Okay, and New Jersey is still a very blue state. It's going to remain a pretty blue state for the foreseeable future. I hope Republicans make some gains in the legislature, in the assembly next year. Okay, but by and large, it's going to remain a blue legislature. And by and large, by that, reproductive justice and choice will remain codified. So this idea about you bitching and moaning about choice, Jesus Christ, I've had it up to here already. I've had it up to here. Ladies, if you get knocked up tomorrow and you get pregnant, you can reconsider your pregnancy relatively quickly. There's plenty of clinics, all paid for with your tax dollars, right? Courtesy of Planned Parenthood, sucking money from the federal government and from Trenton as well. There are plenty of clinics, folks. So if you have to reconsider your pregnancy, no problem. And all the other ladies, right, during Single Girl Summer or now during the NFL season, right, during Sunday Fun Day, right, when you're drinking Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you're drinking yourselves into a drunken stupor, and you're probably waking up next to somebody you don't want to wake up to Monday morning, guess what? A plan B is available for you. So stop your bitching and moaning. You don't have anything to worry about. But for some reason, it's gotten weaponized. It still seems to resonate with some voters in New Jersey when it really shouldn't. And again, Chucky leading the charge on this. All right? So, talking about MAGA versus moderation. Moderation wins. Folks, last time I looked, there weren't any MAGA candidates in New Jersey. Now, I can't speak for the rest of the country in some House races and Senate races, but here in New Jersey, where was the lack of moderation? Where was this sort of pitting MAGA against moderation? Where's the MAGA Chuck? What? Because somebody wants to go after the president and call him an absolute failure when he has one of the lowest approval ratings going, where inflation is still a problem? Maybe not to you, because you're sitting on a nice little salary writing one column a week if you're lucky, right? So maybe it doesn't affect you. But for regular working class people, with real jobs like myself, right? Yeah, inflation matters to me. But for some reason, it didn't matter to New Jersey voters, right? Talking about choice and, the fall of democracy. There's no fall of democracy, Chuck. You're like that other fool, Alan Steinberg, right? Like you think for some reason that if Republicans win the House and Senate, that authoritarianism and democracy will disappear. Chuck, you're old enough to remember, I think, right? I mean, you're in your late 80s. At some point, you took U.S. history, right? In high school, maybe in college, okay? There's a reason why the checks and balances, the 3 branches of government, is to prevent that stuff, right? Just like the right, at times, tend to go with hysteria about, socialism and communism is coming, and we know that's not going to happen. It's the same thing by the left, saying that, authoritarianism and fascism is coming. Chuck, here's a newsflash. During the 4 years of President Donald Trump, he never suspended habeas corpus. He never suspended a free press. He never suspended due process. Okay, those are things that authoritarians and fascists do. That was never going to happen in here. Not in New Jersey, not in the country. But propagandists like you like to promulgate that narrative and the hysteria when we all know it's not true. More on Chuck's garbage column of the week. Targeting Pelosi fades as a tactic. Chuck, it still works. Listen, it may not have been the red wave that we wanted, but hey, I'll take If it's one vote majority in the House, that's all we need for conservatives to maybe put up a new speaker, to put up new committees, to maybe hold people in Washington accountable. Hey, I'm happy. Yeah, may not be the majority I wanted, but 219 to 216, it's still a majority. You take it on your side of the aisle and don't BS anyone otherwise, right? What else? Cheryl's hard-hitting ad, right? Well, again, Mikey Cheryl, I would argue, is very fortunate. You know, if Paul DeGroot got any real good fundraising and help from the NJGOP or maybe the RNC, maybe that could have been a more competitive race. So what the hard-hitting ad, what? That Paul DeGroot's going to take away your right to abortion? Again, ladies, stop with your BS hysteria. Abortion is codified into New Jersey law. What do you have to worry about? Like, your bitching and moaning is insufferable already. It's nauseating. Like, I'm tired of it. Yo, pick something else to bitch and moan about. Okay? As if women in New Jersey don't have enough to bitch and moan about. You can think of something almost hourly. Give me a break here, Chuck. So again, you know, we think about garbage columns here, of course. You think about Charles Style and, you know, what else is new when it comes to NorthJersey.com and, of course, the Bergen Record. But, of course, folks, when we talk about garbage journalism, of course, we go from one garbage journalist to the other. And, yes, folks, it's Tommy Boy, Tommy Moran. And I know that he and the Star-Ledger, I guess, got this perpetual erection talking about David Wildstein today on their column, which was, I think, fruitless and unproductive because David Wildstein said it perfectly. Tom Moran's been a bully for as long as we can remember. He doesn't like getting picked on. He doesn't like, again, Tom, no, listen, bro. Maybe it's easy for me as being like obscenely handsome, so I never have to worry about taking a bad picture because I'm so insanely photogenic. I know you're not photogenic. I get it. And I understand that you felt self-conscious about David Wildstein putting that picture up of you. Here's a newsflash. Easy solution. Don't take pictures. You're not photogenic. So if you want to avoid people taking your pictures, right, where you look atrocious in them, don't publish them. See, I don't have to worry about that because I'm just photogenic. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is photogenic. You know what I'm saying? You, on the other hand, that's not the case. So if you're bitching and moaning about someone taking your picture and using it in an article, newsflash, don't have it. Keep this one. I mean, not that this is nice to look at anyway, but it's a hell of a lot better than what you published online. Easy. Don't publish photos that make you look bad. You do a good job already. You don't need to perpetuate it even worse. Now, this is interesting, you know, looking at Tom Moran's latest column here. To stop Republican blackmail, raise the debt ceiling now. Right? So, of course, he goes on to write, and of course, I'm sure Tom Moran blew a load on himself after last week. Republicans didn't win Big Tuesday, but they almost surely won enough to take control of the House, which, again, according to estimates today, they'll have a 219 to 216 majority. That's good enough for me for right now until 2024. That gives Democrats only a few months to lock away all the sharp objects so the Republican tantrums can't draw blood when they take power in January. Well, as if Democrats don't, you know, abuse their time when they take control of the House or Senate. Didn't we see in 2018, 2019, these ridiculous committees, right? The Mueller report, which didn't prove anything, all this impeachment nonsense, which I know you were having this perpetual erection over. That was a waste of taxpayer money and everything else. Don't even get me started on January 6th because, again, you're another one that seems to have this perpetual hard-on about January 6th, right? So you go on to write, that starts with the debt ceiling. Republicans plan to take the economy hostage next year by refusing to raise the debt ceiling. Unless Democrats agree to cut spending and programs the Republicans consider wasteful. Well, of course, folks, because what did the Biden administration do with the Inflation Reduction Act? It's done nothing to reduce inflation. All it's done is grown government and increase spending. But Tom Moran won't tell you that because, again, he would rather virtue signal like the rest of the journalists here in the left-wing media in New Jersey. Asked if that includes Social Security and Medicare, House GOP leader, hopefully, Speaker of the House in just a few weeks, Kevin McCarthy confirmed that both programs will be on the table. Yes, Tom, if there's some ways to go around, no one's talking about eliminating Social Security. Tom, it's codified into federal law, okay? Same thing with Medicare. It's codified into federal law, okay? Republicans have held both chambers of the federal legislature in previous decades. They've never done anything with doing away with it. Stop fear-mongering. It's what you're good at, but we see through it, okay? Is there wasteful spending in Washington? Of course there is. Can Republicans hopefully maybe get to the bottom of it? I hope so. And is that a bad thing? Of course not. But again, Tom Moran would rather fearmonger, okay, and virtue signal than talk about the facts, right? So, of course, he goes on to say, Democrats can't yield to this blackmail. Social Security and Medicare are not just widely popular among the elderly, They are the pillar of every middle-class worker's retirement plan. Single control of one house does not give Republicans the right to dictate federal policy on this. That's not going to happen, Tom. Again, folks, this is where Tom Moran likes to fool you, okay? The hardest part of his day is probably going to a Starbucks in Montclair and deciding, should I have almond milk or soy milk with my super duper macchiato, cappuccino, I don't know, whatever. That's the hardest part of Tom Moran's day, aside from writing garbage columns like this. Okay, but this is the thing, folks. Tom Moran would rather fearmonger and remind you that just like both parties have their chances to cut spending, we'll see who does it. We'll see Republicans maybe controlling the House will cut some wasteful spending. No one's getting rid of Medicare. I know, Tom. I mean, again, you're like in your 80s, so I get it. Medicare is important to you, right? You're kind of in the closing chapters of your life, right? The end is near, as they say, right? By the looks of it. So I get it. Medicare is important to you. Social Security is important to you. I get it, but it's not being done away with, Tom. Do better, bro. Again, you make it this point to fearmonger your columns, and no one's really paying attention because no one's really reading the Star Ledger, as David Wildstein so eloquently put it out there tonight during the interview. But of course, folks, we talk about garbage journalism. Yes, we've talked about two garbage journalists in New Jersey, but when we talk about the king of garbage journalism, it almost seems like I want to start a GoFundMe so he can stop wearing that just ridiculous looking beret as if he's like walking through downtown Paris. Yes, folks, I almost feel like getting him a crown, arguably the king of garbage journalism. Yes, we all know it's Sleepy Al, Alan Steinberg. And again, I know it's 7 o'clock. It's past 7 o'clock. It's way past his bedtime. He's not watching this. So I'm sure he'll watch the replay tomorrow. And I'm sure he'll have his little comments to make and whatever. And Al, again, I'm going to the League of Municipalities. If you got something to say to me, I'll be there tomorrow. I more than welcome your feedback, just like anybody else, just like a lot of fans will come up to me. I've already gotten a lot of instant messages here, folks. But hey, you going to the league? Awesome, bro. I love your show. Can't wait to meet you. Can't wait to see you. Great. And for those of you that don't like my show or have an issue with me, folks, I'm not hard to find. Come see me tomorrow if you got something to say to me. At the league, I'll be there Tuesday. I'll be there Wednesday. If you got something to say, listen, I'm Cuban. So, si tú tienes la gana, ven y háblame. I don't got a problem with you. Okay? I can dish it out as well as take it. So if you got something to say, don't sing it. Bring it. That's all I'm going to leave it at that. Now, as far as Sleepy Al is concerned, of course, Ali, obviously, I'm sure blew a load in his pants, which I don't know if he still can in his as he's approaching 100. But of course, he had to sort of boast, and that's fine. You can brag about Republicans not winning a red wave. That's fine. They still have the majority. Hey, 219 and 216, I'll take that. Democrats keeping the Senate. Interesting, some Republican candidates up in the lead, and then mysteriously, as the days go on, vote by mails get counted, and somehow whatever the percentages were for Democrats needing to win back those Senate seats, they mysteriously appeared the last few days. Really interesting about how those percentages get calculated, right? State of Florida gets ravaged by a hurricane. They can count votes in a day, but states like Arizona and Nevada, and Pennsylvania take days and days and days to count. Really interesting. But Ali won't tell you that because I would rather perpetuate his virtue signaling and all the propaganda that he peddles, right? So, of course, I'm not going to read you this garbage column, but, again, the thing what's interesting about Al, bragging about the demise of Joe Biden being grossly exaggerated or, again, democracy, winning on election night. Folks, if you want to see the most hysterical, embarrassing display of a grown man, okay, first of all, I love the song God Bless America. I sing it quite often. I'm actually a pretty good singer, okay, having hosted karaoke for years. But one thing that really, folks, you want to hurt your eardrums, you want to take a look at something really, really embarrassing, check out Ali's Twitter, okay? The audacity of this guy, first of all, the close-up is atrocious because just looking at the bags under his, I haven't seen that many bags since I went to JFK Airport walking through baggage claim, okay? The idea of having a close-up to look at the bags on Steinberg is kind of alarming, and I think that, folks, if you have any children, put them away, put them to the side or put them to bed before you check out the Twitter. You don't want to, alarm children or scare them. But the idea, and I get it, you want to brag, that's all great and good, but do me a favor. Number one, if you're going to sing do it well or don't do it at all. I mean, Jesus Christ. I can't unsee or unhear looking at that close-up of you and then hearing you sing God Bless America. Folks, if you want to hear what maybe killing a dead animal sounds like, it's that. It's just atrocious. Al, you're a lot of things. Do me a favor. On your checklist, check off being a journalist, because you're not a journalist, you're a propagandist. And do me a favor, on your list too, check off singer, because you're clearly not a singer either, okay? But what's interesting about Alan Steinberg, again, is this sort of perpetual fixation about authoritarianism and fascism. Alan, again, I know you took U.S. history 90-something years ago, whether it was in high school, you took it in college, okay? This is the reality. And again, I think both sides are guilty of this. I think the right at times can be guilty of perpetuating this hysteria that, oh, we're getting close to communism and socialism. I get it, where that comes from, but I think that's not going to happen, again, because of the three branches of government, the checks and balances. But by the same token, for someone like Al, who's a full-blown leftist now, who's a full-blown propagandist, okay, Al, at no time, whether it's a Republican or Democrat, has habeas corpus ever been suspended? Has a free press been suspended? Due process, anything else that, again, is comprised of what constitutes this constitutional republic. I get it, Al, I get it, bro. You're old. You're almost 100 years old. I get it. Your cognitive decline is, I get it. It's sinking by the second. But Al, be a little intellectually honest. You're lying to people openly. There's no authoritarianism on the rise. There's no fascism. If Republicans had won the House and Senate together, no, democracy was not going to be suspended. Al, stop with your hysteria. This is what makes you a laughingstock. This is why you're not taken seriously in the New Jersey media establishment. I get it. You might get some people to read your columns. Are you getting my traffic? Of course not. And anybody who knows, anyone who's even remotely conscious knows that. Now, again, Al, you can kind of be passive-aggressive in your columns and mention me, and that's cool. I'm flattered, because not that I need the help, because I get plenty of attention already. But Alan, be a little more intellectually honest. Again, whether it's you, Tom Moran, Charles Stile, Max Pizarro, Jay Lasseter, David Cruz, it seems like the Lollipop Guild, the guys I just mentioned, right, are doing a disservice to journalism. And they don't care. They're getting paid money. Hey, why should they care? But if you want honest journalism, honest opinion journalism, you can always rely on it right here on Jersey First TV, courtesy of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. So once again, folks, congratulations to Sleepy Alan Steinberg, to Tommy Boy Tom Moran, and the Chuckster, Chucky, Charles Stile, this week's winners of the worst journalists of the week in the state of New Jersey. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, check us out on all of our social media. Make sure you like Real Talk with Fernando Uribe on Facebook. Make sure you also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at the Fernando Zone. Also check out Jersey First on their Twitter and Instagram as well. And also check them out on their YouTube page and download the episodes, folks, because Jersey First TV is on Spotify and SoundCloud. Wherever you get your podcasts, download them and you can listen to them wherever podcasts are available, whether you're driving down to the League of Municipalities, whether you're, driving to work, driving your kids to soccer practice, driving your kids to a ballet recital, wherever, download them and listen to them wherever you get your podcasts. Check out, of course, folks, really, when you talk about community, taxes, education, the economy, and all the things that matter to regular, everyday New Jerseyans, no one does it better than Jersey First TV. And that's our show for this week, folks. Once again, I want to thank our guest tonight, Belleville Mayor Michael Melham, and certainly the editor of the New Jersey Globe, David Wildstein, for joining me here on the show. Great conversation, great double main event here. And of course, folks, I appreciate you sharing it as we, call it wrap tonight here on the show. Folks, always check us out at jerseyfirst.org. Also, check out the show, jerseyfirst.org/TV/Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. And of course, I want to thank you all for always sharing the episodes. Sharing is caring, folks. And of course, as we go off the air, make sure to share the episodes whenever you can on all of the aforementioned social media platforms. Again, folks, write to the show. Let us know what you think on social media. We appreciate all of your feedback. And certainly we'll continue being that beacon of light. I'll continue being the hero that you need right now in New Jersey journalism, folks. It's my pleasure to do that for you, to be the hero that you deserve right now. And always remember, folks, if it's an unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid It's always Real Talk right here with Jersey First TV. I am New Jersey's premier and now 7-time award-winning journalist, top 100 Latino via Latino Spirit online magazine, and certainly the Garden State's most visually appealing conservative. Yes, it's me, Fernando Uribe, folks, saying, let's go Devils again. Great start to the season. Folks, I'll see you at the League of Municipalities. I'll be making my way down there. For all my friends, people who love the show, come up and say hi. I look forward to talking with you. And for those of you who don't like the show, if you got a problem, come see me. I'm not hard to find. Folks, have a great week at the League in Atlantic City. Have a good one. And I'll see you next Monday night here, folks, live at 6 p.m. Eastern Time as New Jersey State Senator Vin Gopal joins us on Real Talk with Jersey First TV. Folks, once again, please party responsibly. For everyone going down to the League, please enjoy yourselves. Take care of yourselves. And I'll see you next week, folks. As always, thank you so much for watching.